Okay, get this. What if I told you the guy who basically founded modern medicine was also a legendary sorcerer? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel, right? But this is the real story, the totally wild and contradictory story of a man named Paracelsus.
So you've got to be asking, how does that even work? How can one single person be, a pillar of science on one hand and a master of magic on the other? Well, that is the puzzle of Paracelsus. He was this 16th century trailblazer, and his entire life was this incredible tug of war between those two worlds. All right, so let's dive in. His birth name was, well, it was a mouthful, Theophrastus von Hohenheim. But that's not the name he's known for. He decided to call himself Paracelsus, which is kind of brilliant. It basically means beyond Celsus, and Celsus was a famous ancient Roman physician. So right from the get-go, he's telling the world, I'm better than the old guys. He was the definition of a Renaissance man, just a complete revolutionary. And to really wrap your head around him, you have to imagine this guy walking a tightrope. On one side, you've got the entire medieval world of mysticism and magic. And on the other, the brand new, shiny world of modern science just starting to take shape. And there he is, right in the middle, balancing between the two. All right, let's meet the first side of this guy, Paracelsus, the scientist. And let me tell you, this was a man who basically declared war on the entire medical establishment. He was a total rebel, and he was about to, almost single-handedly, change everything we thought we knew about medicine and chemistry. You have to understand, for centuries, pretty much all of medicine was based on this one idea, the humoral theory. It was this ancient Greek belief that your health depended on a perfect balance of four bodily fluids, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. If you got sick, they'd say, oh, your humors are out of whack. While Paracelsus looked at this and thought it was complete nonsense, just old, ineffective dogma. And he was not the kind of guy to keep that opinion to himself. And when I say he didn't keep it to himself, I mean it. He didn't just, write a strongly worded letter. Nope. In this legendary act of defiance, he went to the University of Basel, gathered up all the sacred medical books from ancient authorities like Galen, and set them on fire. In public. I mean, can you imagine? His message was crystal clear. We need to stop trusting these dusty old books and start trusting our own eyes, our own experience. It's no wonder people started calling him the medical Luther. He was lighting a fire under the whole system. So, okay, if you're going to burn the rule book, you better have a new one ready. And he did. His philosophy was so radical for the 16th century, it was basically a new set of commandments for medicine. Rule 1, observe nature for yourself. Rule 2, experiment with chemicals. And Rule 3, and this is the big one, reject any tradition you can't prove. This was a game changer. And this right here, this is probably his most famous, most important contribution to science. A simple phrase that is literally the foundation of modern toxicology. The dose makes the poison. Think about that. It's this beautiful, simple idea that anything can be medicine and anything can be poison. The only thing that separates them is the dose. See, Paracelsus had this groundbreaking idea. He said sickness isn't from some vague imbalance inside you. No, it's caused by specific things, external agents that attack the body. So what do? You fight back with specific chemical weapons. And look at his arsenal. We're talking mercury, sulfur, lead, even arsenic. I mean, can you imagine your doctor prescribing that today? It was unbelievably controversial and, yeah, super dangerous. But it was also revolutionary. He was the guy who kicked open the door and dragged chemistry into the world of medicine. Okay, so that's one side of the coin. Paracelsus, the scientist, the rebel. But all that wandering, that confrontational attitude, it started to build a legend around him, a totally different, much more mysterious identity. So now, let's flip the coin and meet Paracelsus, the master of magic. And the stories that started swirling around this guy were just wow. People whispered that he'd found the Philosopher's Stone, the one that can turn lead into gold. They said he'd created a homunculus, a tiny artificial human being. There were even tales that his sword had the word Azoth carved into it, which gave him command over the very life force of the universe. This stuff wasn't just idle gossip. It became a huge part of who he was. It's no surprise that this legendary version of Paracelsus gets compared to another mythical figure from that time, Faust. You know the story, the guy who sells his soul for ultimate knowledge? Both of them became these powerful symbols of the Renaissance. They represent that archetype of the rebellious genius, the person so hungry for knowledge that they're willing to walk right up to the line between science and the supernatural, and step over it. So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Which one was the real Paracelsus? The scientist or the sorcerer? And here's the fascinating thing. The answer is both. He had to be both. He couldn't have been one without the other because he lived in this incredibly unique moment in time, right on the cusp of a huge change. I mean, look at this. It lays it out perfectly. Paracelsus is literally standing on a bridge between two different ages. You've got the medieval world behind him, all faith and magic, and the modern world of science and observation just starting to form in front of him. He wasn't just choosing a side, he was the bridge connecting those two worlds. And the wildest part? For Paracelsus himself, there was zero contradiction. To him, studying chemistry wasn't separate from his faith. It was a part of it. He saw it as a spiritual mission, like he was trying to understand the mind of God by studying creation. That's why alchemy was so important to him. It wasn't just a get-rich-quick scheme to make gold. It was a sacred quest to find the divine spark hidden inside everything. And so in the end, he leaves behind this amazing dual legacy. On the one hand, you have the scientist, the guy who gave us principles we still use today in medicine and chemistry. And on the other hand, you have the magician, who became this legendary figure, this icon for anyone interested in hidden or esoteric knowledge. Ultimately, Paracelsus is the perfect symbol for his time, for the Renaissance itself. It was messy, it was explosive, and it was brilliant. His story is more than just about one guy. It's a powerful reminder that progress, that the search for knowledge, is never a clean, straight line. It's often confusing and contradictory, and it almost always means you have to be brave enough to challenge everything you thought was true. And that kind of leaves us with a final lingering question, doesn't it? When we look at our own quest for knowledge today, trying to understand everything from quantum physics to the nature of consciousness, how much of that journey is still a dance? A dance between the hard facts we can prove and those mysterious leaps of faith that still feel, well, a little bit like magic.